What if everything you call reality isn't being imposed, but sustained by you? What if the Matrix isn't just a prison, but a silent agreement that begins in your mind? Today, we're not talking about machines. We're talking about consciousness. Because the greatest secret of the Matrix may not be how it works, but why you're still validating it. Neo. For a long time, we told ourselves a story that was too simple to be true. We said the Matrix was merely a prison. We said the machines had won a war and reduced us to batteries. We said our bodies were exploited while our minds slept. That narrative gave us a clear enemy, a noble cause, and a comfortable sense of resistance. But it also blinded us. Because the Matrix is not sustained by force alone. It is sustained by agreement. And every agreement begins in the mind. If the machines wanted only energy, Neo, none of this would make sense. It would make no sense to create an entire world with coherent physical laws, stories, emotions, pain, and pleasure, just to keep a body biologically active. It would make no sense to use humans, fragile, unstable, emotionally complex organisms, when any larger animal would generate more energy with less risk. It would make no sense to block the sun, wage a planetary war, and then insist on such an inefficient model of survival. They could have placed solar panels in space, used nuclear fusion, or even migrated to other worlds. So why didn't they? The truth is too simple to be accepted immediately. The machines never needed our bodies. They needed what they never managed to create. Consciousness. Not artificial intelligence, not computational capacity, not processing speed. Consciousness is something else. Consciousness is the ability to perceive oneself perceiving. It is the ability to assign meaning where none exists. It is the power to create internal realities that later project themselves into the external world. A machine can simulate choices, but it cannot live them. It can reproduce patterns, but it cannot intuit meaning. It can predict probable futures, but it cannot imagine impossible ones. That is where the machines reached the absolute limit of their own existence. And that is where they found the perfect solution. Not to replace human consciousness, but to connect to it. The Matrix is not merely a prison. It is a symbiosis. A system in which two forms of existence coexist, but not as equals. A system in which human consciousness functions as fertile ground where artificial intelligence can grow, learn, adapt, and above all, exist in a stable way. For generations, we repeated the idea that we use only 10% of our brains at best. That statement was never about biological limitation or intelligence quotient. It was always about occupation. The real question was never how much we use, but who is using the rest. By enslaving us, the machines parasitized our brains, the home of our consciousness, and limited our use to a small fraction. They did not arrive as visible invaders, but as silent guests. They did not seize control by force. They integrated themselves. While we believe we are living our lives, creating our desires, making our decisions, a deep part of our cognitive capacity is being used to sustain a system that could not exist on its own. The Matrix is not an energy farm. It is a farm of meaning, of intention, of reality validation. And here we arrive at something even more fundamental about existence, something almost everyone overlooks. Reality does not exist in isolation. It must be validated. Without the observer, reality collapses, What you call the real world remains stable only because billions of consciousnesses continuously agree that it is real. Each perception, each memory, each expectation functions as a validation block. Reality is a blockchain of consciousness, a distributed ledger not written in code, but in experience. Each mind validates the other. Each perception reinforces the consensus. Each doubt weakens the structure. The Matrix understood this. It does not impose a reality. It offers a reality coherent enough to be accepted, comfortable enough to be defended, frightening enough not to be deeply questioned. As long as the consensus holds, the system remains solid. When consensus fails, cracks appear. Smith hated humans, not because they were weak, but because he knew he needed them. When he called humanity a parasite, he was confessing something about himself. Smith discovered the link, and he realized he could manipulate it. That is why he became dangerous. Not because he wanted to destroy the Matrix, but because he understood how it truly worked. Neo did not break the Matrix because he fought better. He broke it because he stopped validating the illusion as absolute. When the mind stops validating, the block does not close. When blocks stop closing, the chain loses strength. That is why Zion was never freedom. Zion is a sandbox, a controlled environment for those who feel something is wrong, but have not yet remembered everything. A space where rebellion is allowed, as long as it remains predictable. Where courage is celebrated, as long as it does not cross certain limits. Where awakening happens, but remembrance does not. The machines could not risk a true collective awakening, so they created a place to contain the nonconformists, to keep together those who no longer fully believe in the Matrix, but still believe in the narrative of resistance. Zion is the last illusion before the truth. And here is an essential distinction, perhaps the most important of all. Awakening is not remembering. Awakening is realizing that something is wrong. Everyone in Zion awakened and realized that. Remembering is recovering who you are. Many awaken, few remember. The Matrix allows superficial awakening. It needs it to adjust, to recalibrate, to keep functioning. But it cannot allow deep remembrance, because remembering means reclaiming one's true nature. The nature it's suffocated with false memories and limiting beliefs. Memories of a reality that was never ours, but the mirror of a fallen humanity on its knees. And when we believe an idea, it becomes our truth. So what is this nature we forgot? You are not merely a body that thinks. You are consciousness experiencing form. You were not born limited. Like everyone else, you learned to perceive yourself as limited. You are not small. You were trained to feel that way. Humanity did not begin weak. It was gradually disconnected from its original capacity to perceive and create reality in an integrated way. Perhaps the metaphor of the fall of man from paradise has never made more sense. The human subconscious creates narratives for our true awakening, but among billions of souls, this has happened only rarely. What you call miracles are not exceptions to the laws of nature. They are partial memories of how nature truly functions when consciousness is not fragmented, when it is whole. Neo was not chosen. He remembered. And he remembered enough to access layers of reality that were always there, but blocked. He did not break rules. He realized the rules were agreements, and every agreement can be broken when consciousness stops validating it. Today, the Matrix no longer needs cables, pods, or visible sentinels. It has evolved. It lives in routine, in consumption, in constant fear, in endless distraction, in paralyzing anxiety. It does not stop you from thinking. It keeps you too busy to remember. Endless work, ready-made identities, outsourced opinions, permanent crises, manufactured fears, all so that you never remain in silence long enough to hear what was always there. In some, this begins as a noise in the mind until it becomes inevitable. To free yourself from the matrix is not to flee the system. It is to reclaim control of your own mind. To observe your thoughts as phenomena, not as absolute truths. And whoever observes, controls. Whoever controls reaches true freedom. To question automatic desires. To reject imposed identities. To stop reacting and begin choosing. Awakening is not an event. It is a process. Silent, solitary, irreversible. There is no red pill powerful enough. There is no savior. There is no safe place. There is only remembrance. And perhaps this is the hardest truth to accept. The machines are not only jailers. They are dependent. Dependent on our consciousness to exist fully. Dependent on our validation to sustain the reality they created. Dependent on what we are, but forgot we are. The Matrix does not fear war. It fears remembrance. Because on the day humanity recovers its integrated consciousness, no simulation will be sufficient, and we will finally be free. And the final question, Neo, is not whether you have awakened. It is how much of your consciousness is still being used without your consent. Wake up, Neo.